So in today's video, I want to talk about the correct way to hold your camera. And it's, let me remember, yeah, not this one. Hi, my name's Gerrard. I'm a photographer based in Montreal, but originally from the UK, as you may guess from this accent and the fact that I'm drinking tea. And in this video, I want to talk about something which I guess is a little bit more for beginners, and that is how to hold your camera in the correct way. If you're a little bit more advanced, you've been shooting for a while, or maybe you're a professional photographer, then I'm guessing you know how to hold your camera, or at least what works for you. And if you're holding it the wrong way, it's probably too late for you. Now, the other thing I'll say is if you're shooting at high shutter speeds, then you're going to be less bothered by camera shake. So how you're holding the camera isn't quite as important. It's when you start slowing down your shutter speed that you want to make sure that you are stable with your camera so that you don't get too much movement or any movement in the frame unless that's what you want. But also you want to make sure that you're comfortable when you're shooting, because if I'm telling you you should be shooting this way or holding the camera a certain way, but it doesn't feel comfortable for you, then it's probably not going to work. So these are kind of basic rules. Take some of them with a pinch of salt, and at the end of the day, whatever works for you is going to be best. Now, my first tip, and the most important, is where you're going to be placing your hands. And with a big camera like this is a 5D Mark III. It's a pretty heavy camera, so if you get your hand position wrong and you're shooting for a long time during the day, you could start to get fatigued in the wrists or the hands or even the arms. So making sure that you're holding that weight as securely as possible. Obviously you don't want to be dropping your camera, but securely and evenly, then that's going to make a massive difference to you over time. So what I always do is I see a lot of people that shoot, they hold the camera like this, and then they hold the lens like this, and they're thinking that they're going to be zooming in and out a lot, which might be true. I usually use prime lenses, so I don't actually zoom that much. But the thing is, all your weight is on this hand, and also this hand is the one that's making quite a few adjustments. Whereas if you keep your left hand and make all the weight on that hand, then this frees up this hand to kind of do what it needs to do without holding the camera at the same time. You've got that stability, and then you can kind of play. And if you do need to zoom or focus, you can do that with your left hand very easily, even though all the weight is still on there, and use this one for what it's meant to be done. Now, if you have a bigger lens, like this is the 7200, which is a longer lens and a heavier lens, then you want to kind of play around and work out where the weight is going to be the best for you. Because if you're holding it in the same place as a shorter lens, it's going to kind of tip forward, and that's the last thing you want to happen. But if you kind of find that midpoint where you can kind of balance it on your hand quite nicely and it's pretty solid, and then again you free up this hand to do the job of pressing the button, focusing, and making any changes on the back that you need to do without it having to hold the weight of the camera. Now, my next tip is what to do with your elbows. If you're shooting like this and your elbows are sticking out, you're definitely going to get a lot more camera shake than you would if you bring your elbows in, keep them close to your chest, and your body starts to work like a little bit of a human tripod, where you've got that stability, you've got something to lean against, and your arms are not moving around. There's not as much camera shake, and then you can bring the camera up, maybe rest it against your forehead for another point of contact, just to get that sort of triangle of stability. And I usually shoot through I'm looking through my left eye. I know most people, I think, shoot through their right eye, but it doesn't really make that much difference as to how you hold the camera. So whatever works for you, try that. But you will find that by bringing your elbows in tight to your chest, if that feels comfortable, then you will find you'll get that extra bit of stability, especially at slower shutter speeds, so you're not getting the motion blur or any kind of camera shake unless you want it. Now, my next tip is the best way to hold the camera vertically. So if you're shooting a portrait and you want to hold the camera this way around or this way around, what I found works best for me is to tip it this way. So this arm is kind of, the elbow comes out a little bit, but the weight is still being held by this hand, by your left hand. So your right hand is still free to make any adjustments while you're shooting. Whereas if you shoot this way around, all the weight becomes onto your right hand again, and this hand is doesn't really have much to do apart from the focusing. Now I have a battery grip on my camera, so it allows me to have an extra battery in here, which means if I'm shooting a wedding day, I'm not going to run out of batteries, hopefully, on the wedding day. But it also means I have another button here for pressing the shutter, which allows me to shoot in portrait way round and still have my shutter in the same place, whether it's there, or I can shoot like that if I want. Shooting this way round in portrait, then this button goes all the way around here, which means I can't even really use it, which tells me that the manufacturer assumes that we're going to be shooting this way around. So weight under the camera, you still got your shutter there or there, and you're good to go. Now I have heard that more men prefer to shoot this way and girls or women prefer to shoot this way. Now I don't know if there's any truth behind that, but I have heard that. I can't think of any reason for that, but let me know in the comments if you prefer that way or that way. But I definitely automatically, I don't even think about it. I just turn the camera like that and I'm good to go. Now my next tip is when you're shooting in live view, which a lot more people are doing these days. I'm talking about when you can see things on the screen and you want to kind of frame it up like this. Now the problem with this is that when you're shooting at slow shutter speeds and you're trying to look at the camera, you have to hold your camera out here, which means your stability is definitely lacking compared to when you're here and it's tight. So if you're shooting slower shutter speeds and you're shooting in live view, you just have to be extra careful that you're not getting any camera shake and you're not getting that blur, and maybe just overshoot just a little bit just to make sure that you've got more images to choose from, and hopefully you'll be getting enough that are in focus and sharp. But I would suggest that if you are shooting like this in live view, then try and keep that shutter speed higher. I would aim for 1/200th of a second or even faster if you can. And if you need to bring that shutter speed down because of the light or whatever, then maybe switch from live mode and shoot so you can hold the camera tighter to your body. So my next tip is to just think a little bit about how you're standing. Imagine yourself as being some kind of human tripod and try and get yourself nice and steady before you're even taking the shot. Again, at highest shutter speeds, this kind of stuff doesn't really matter, but as soon as you start slowing it down to 1/100th of a second or below, then you need to make sure that you are steady. You know, keep your feet apart maybe, or if you can, lean against the wall or something that's nearby just to kind of add that extra bit of steadiness. But if you need to go down to super slow shutter speeds, 1/30th or below, then I would suggest either using a tripod or finding somewhere that you can rest your camera, whether it's on a wall or a table. But if that's not possible, you just need to get yourself as steady as possible and lean against things or find some way of stopping you from moving around, even if it's hardly noticeable to the human eye. Now, my next tip is to make sure you've got the camera the right way around, because if you're holding it upside down, the buttons will be on the bottom. No, I'm joking. I don't think anybody's that dumb, but maybe they are. And yeah, I definitely suggest this way around. So anyway, that's mainly it. Keep it nice and steady, elbows in, keep it tight to you if you can. Use higher shutter speeds if you can, if you don't want the camera shake. And yeah, that's it. If any of this was helpful, please give me a little like and maybe subscribe if you want to see more videos later on. But otherwise, we will see you on the next one. See you guys.